do a little talk today on gymnastics, seeing that's coming up in a couple of weeks. And he said, keep it simple. I said, that's good, I can do that. Okay, so it's a big world out there, the gymnastics. And so I try to just cut it up in little bits and pieces. And what would I want to know if I didn't know anything about gymnastics, especially when you're watching TV. And perhaps you've all seen that, whether it's diving or rhythmic gymnastics or the physical gymnastics apparatus. When it's all done and you get the score, you go, what? What are they thinking? What are they doing? Those Russians did it again, you know? Because it's a tight one, because a lot of it is subjective. But they try to fix that, but they still have a ways to go. So hopefully this, when you're done today, you'll get some sort of idea. When you go, what? You'll understand what, okay? So today, this is what our agenda will be. My own history, request a bill here. I told him my story, he said, oh, you got that. Okay, so I said, okay. And then the gymnast, road to Olympics, from the very beginning to the end. Changes in equipment. If you look at what they're doing today compared to when Dory and I were in gymnastics, and we had very good gymnasts. We went to international meets, national meets. We had one girl in 3 Olympic trials. They weren't doing what they're doing today. And we'll talk about why is that, what's happened. Was it the Wheaties they're eating or what? Okay. Scoring, we're going to talk about, that's the biggest change that have happened with the scoring and judges. It's different than when we were competing. And then, listen, the judges shorthand. There are 840 different little scribbles that they have to know when they're judging for all the apparatus. Can you imagine that if it was your first year? You know? So there's a lot there. There's a lot there. So why don't you
just ask me, is this being recorded? We are recorded. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay. Now, rules. If you have a question, raise your hand. Or do it anytime. Don't wait until I'm done. Now it's time for questions. If you have a question, ask it. Okay? So feel free to do that. If it pops in your head, go ahead. It doesn't mean I know the answer. Okay? It's been probably 25 years since I was a competitive coach. Okay, and things have changed. But I'm as bright as can be. I can remember all that stuff. Okay, so let's start off with my history. I started off, I went to Central Michigan University, and I loved football. That was my game. I wanted to play football. And so I went on to the team at the university, and I lied about my weight. I said I was 150, actually it was 149 pounds, but I loved it. But I was fast, and so I didn't have to be with a big lineman. I could be out there and play in my own little game. So I went out for the team, and it was not a pretty sight. Whenever we had practice, and we said, okay, we need a dummy, boys, get in there. You know? So, but the first 4 months, I ate everything that was in front of me. I was in the dorm. All that food, are you kidding me? I put on 50 pounds by Christmas. And that gave me the weight I needed, lifting weights and then eating, that I actually made the varsity the next year. But then I started counting. I'm going, I'm going to be sitting on the bench for 4 years. I'm going, okay, it's time to make a decision. So I turned in my equipment and I quit. But at that time, I was also taking a gymnastics class for PE credit. And the coach came up to me and says, you doing anything after you? I said, no, I just quit football. I said, you want to come out for the gymnastics team? I had a hard time just spelling it. I don't know what it was. I said, yeah, why not? I'm not doing anything. So I did. I came out for the team, and I had a couple seniors that really were very helpful. The other people kind of like, they didn't want me. I was a football player. But these guys were really very nice to me, to get around. But why I picked that, I don't know. But I did. And so it was at that time, things really changed in my life because there was this woman, this young lady that walked into the gym. I hardly can remember. She had long brown hair, a light colored leotard. She had nice blue eyes, but other than that, I don't remember a whole lot more of that. And she ended up being my wife, Dorothy. And we ended up when we graduated, a team for gymnastics, and she was brilliant, and still is, but she was able to understand the mechanics of movement and understand what it took to be an Olympic coach. She was good. I was the grunt. We need Bolhuis. We need the beam moved. I can do that.
That's me. Put me in, coach.
Okay. So knew nothing about gymnastics. And the first meet was coming up, a home meet, and I thought, well, I'll just go over there and maybe help with paperwork or whatever. So I walk into the gym and the coach comes up to me and said, we need someone on floor. Well, what's the floor? I didn't even know what a floor was, what a routine. I said, I don't know anything about it. He said, let's go to the locker room, we'll figure it out. So my first experience with gymnastics was actually being in a gymnastics meet. And so we figured out where we wanted them. Back then it was all wood floors compared to what you have now. And then where you're gonna really do the big summit or whatever, you had a 1-inch mat, you put it, I think I'm gonna lay in there, so put it there, type of thing. I think I hit it right, but halfway through my routine, I think I blacked out. But that was my first experience with gymnastics. And my last experience, my last meet I competed with, the coach comes up to me again and says, we need someone on P-bars. Either that, we're going to end up in last place. I said, I don't do P-bars. Sit down, let's figure it out. So I got up there, and that was my last experience. So that was interesting. So that's kind of my history on that. So let's start on getting into the gymnastics part of it. The gymnast, the road to Olympics. We could just keep that up there until we move it. Starting, they can start, if they can walk, they can do gymnastics. Doreen worked with another woman who was in broadcasting and publishing, and they made videos on how to do gymnastics at home using whatever you have at home. It was quite good. Never took off, but it was really quite interesting how she was able to do that. But they can start at that age and work their way all the way up. And when I was a coach, I had a woman that came up to me. She must have been 35 or so. She said, I want to learn gymnastics. I go, okay, yes. And she wanted to do bars. And so I worked with her for about 2 years at that age. You know, and she loved it. It was really interesting. To compete, back then it was pretty hard to compete because the judging it's the same. No matter what level you're at, you were judged the same. And so it was harder at first. The little kids would compete and they end up with 2, you know, maybe 3, type of thing. But looking at the judging, they changed it, and they started with level 1 all the way to level 10. Now, a level 1 gymnast, they could have a little meet, and they might be only 5 years old, maybe 6. But what they would do, they would run up to the bars, jump up, and hold themselves straight. That was a skill. But they were looking at, can you jump up, hold yourself up, legs together, toes pointed, jump off, and land it. That was their routine. And it was a progression. Then level 2 would be jump up, legs straight, together, pointed, jump off, and do a half turn. And it just slowly got bigger and bigger until you got to level 9 and level 10, you're doing okay. Okay, in fact, right now it's pretty scary. When you look at what they're doing, it's, yeah, quite substantial. Workout. If you're a little gal like 5 years old or something, you want to be on a team. Now there's a reason why you walk into the gym and you have about 100 of these little girls that are on a team. Whoa, they're on a gymnastics team, isn't that great? Well, there's a reason for that. Because those little ones have to support the big ones. Okay? They'll never say that, of course. But I know when I was looking at the bottom line, those little ones helped our big ones continue to compete. Because those little ones would haul in maybe $100, $200 a month for 4 hours a week. That's 16 hours, okay? That's pretty expensive. But, maybe $12 an hour. But the bigger girls, going 40 hours a week, couldn't afford that. It'd be $800 a month or so. So the little ones support the bigger ones on that. So it can get really expensive. Now Doreen was really, really good at figuring out how to make things work, no wasted time. When our international girls would walk in, or national girls, there was no wasted time. It's now, and then you get out, type of thing. So we could do everything in about 12 hours a week. We were competing with kids that were doing 36 to 40 hours a week, and we were beating them. We even became state champions from that. But these kids can't work that long. They're standing around a lot, you know? So we were able to do that. But for cost-wise, for a little beginner, it might be maybe $1,200 a year. For the girls that you see now in the Olympics, you're talking 30, 40 or more thousand a year. Extremely expensive. So right away it puts a lot of girls out of the competition. You can't even afford it. Some girls will even leave their home to learn gymnastics. They'll go to the gym of all gyms, you know, that have a reputation. And that's where they would go. They would live with another family and do that. Bella Caroli was the big one with Comaneci and stuff like that. He was the big one in Texas. And we had one of our girls that she was very good, but wanted to learn more. And he was pretty rough, you know. And the communist blocks, they're not very nice. They don't have a little pat on the back of their neck. You know, let's get going, let's move it. And we warned them, but she went anyway, and that didn't do her good at all. It kind of just killed her spirits, and she ended up quitting on that. But some people will go to that extreme, and I don't know what it would be like to have a child that's gifted. Maybe you would do that too. I don't know, but quite a few of them did. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, that means I'm not explaining well, or I'm doing a real good job. Yes?
I guess the size, they all seem to be very petite, 4'10".
Well, that's very, very interesting. Now, in some of the Eastern Bloc countries, they see a girl that has talent. And so they'll, right away, I don't care if they're 6 or 7, they'll take them and start testing them as far as strength, flexibility, fear. They'll take them through things with fear. They'll call the parents in and look at the parents. Okay? And go, okay, your parents are here, you're here. Yeah, you get to an age where you're going to compete, you're going to start looking like that. So all that, they would filter those kids out right away and just look for the kids that have the potential, physically, mentally, spiritually, the whole thing. Pretty rigorous. Now, I don't think they do that in the United States. We've never done it with our kids. Well, I haven't heard anybody in the United States that does that. Okay, did that answer?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Anybody else?
I had just a question about the cost, some of those overwhelming costs. Certainly at the younger ages, the parents foot that bill.
Yes.
Then as they mature, do they get sponsorships, some that pay some
To
of that?
tell you the truth, I don't know, because we never got to that point where they were spending that much money with this, so I don't know. I would think they would.
Yeah.
Someone would have to come up with some money for that. Because you look at the girls at the Olympics, it's not their first year doing this. They've been doing it for
Yeah.
6 years.
And I guess they're university scholarships too, right?
Yes, you would think so, but actually when you look at the colleges now, the gymnastics programs are being dropped because of cutbacks. So boys gymnastics, almost non-existent. They're just dropping them. And girls in colleges, they're being dropped. Each year, another one's dropped out, a few have dropped out. So it's getting more difficult. So a lot of parents would come up and go, "Man, if I keep this up, you're gonna get a free ride at college." Well, back then, you probably could. If not a free ride, it would be very, very helpful. Yeah.
Mark, how does USA Gymnastics fit into all of this? Is USA Gymnastics the coaches, and then they recruit the shining star candidates who are then sort of on that track of being at the elite level?
Yeah. Well, U.S. Gymnastics is fairly new, and this happened when that big fallout happened with the doctor and all that stuff, and they had to dissolve the other one and start the USA Gymnastics. And what it is, it's a panel of coaches, it could be judges, whatever, but they're pretty much selected throughout the nation. People know people and suggesting they're voted on a panel, probably about this size. Doreen was in the regional panels, and so they make decisions for the 5 states that we were involved in. But then you got another one that's, I think it's in Indianapolis or something, where they make the decisions for the whole nation. So it's not just all gymnastics coaches, but there's other things involved too. And then they hand down the policies that we follow. Yeah.
How about injury rates? How do injury rates in gymnastics?
Say it again.
Injuries.
Injury
Oh,
rate
oh, that's-
compare with like other
Oh,
sports.
that's yeah. And that's why we didn't work out that many hours with our kids. We did not think physically it was good for them.
Right.
And so we didn't. But others, they'll start having trouble with their joints.
Yes.
The elbow,
Yeah.
the knee, and a big one when you get into the big tricks is that joint right here, by your foot and the leg. Because you're coming in and you're doing something, but you hit short, it jams that foot up into your leg.
Yeah.
And so we had special ways of taping that to try to keep that from, but that was a problem, big time. And the last time we were at the Olympics Invitational, the pre-Olympic trials, there was a gal that you didn't even got a chance to see her. She was a dynamite. She was really good. A little black girl, just amazing. Did a vault, sprained her ankle, 6 years down the drain.
Oh.
She was out.
Yeah.
So it could happen like that.
Yeah.
After all that. So injuries are a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're especially the things that they're doing now. It's just amazing. Any other questions before I continue? Okay. Like I said, question, pop your hand up. Okay. For competition, if you ever listen to the commentator or the announcer, they're talking to a girl gymnast, and they sound like a little girl. You know, they got this little high voice, and they're just, well, they are. They're little girls, they're 16, 17, or something like that, maybe even younger. They are much younger. Now, then they bring a guy in. That's a guy gymnast. He's 20.
Yeah.
Big difference. Got the little voice, you know. Well, the reason for this is the way we develop. Girls are much more agile, flexible, quick at a younger age. But when they get to about 17, 18, they start changing. And that makes the whole things that they've been learning a lot harder. Harder to jump up, harder to do all this stuff. So it's much more difficult. So the older girls, you don't see them very often. Now Simone Biles,
Yes.
who you're going to be seeing a lot of, This is a genius. She's 27 years old and married.
Yeah.
Amazing what she does. Believe me, I've seen a lot of tricks. Nothing like her. Just amazing. Well, usually by the time they get to about 20, you're going to find that's hard to find anybody over that. Now, there's been a few, besides Simone, that have gone maybe 23, 24, but then it's it. So Simone, I'm sure this is going to be her last hurrah. And I hope so, before she gets hurt. In fact, she struggled a couple years ago. She just lost it.
Yes.
She did it in the air and just she lost it.
Yeah.
Well, she was tired. She was worn out. So she took some time off, and that didn't really help because she's right in it. The things she's doing, just, I don't know, great. Just great. So that's the difference between boys and girls, and what you see on TV, a big difference there. The little boys had not developed yet. They don't get their physical strength until they're about 20 and go until about 27. Type thing. Okay, competition. Again, you start with the little meets and you go, 90% of them drop out. But if you're on the road to the Olympics, there are maybe 3 or 4 big meets you have to go to. And the pre-Olympic trials would be one, the U.S. A gymnastics or U.S. competitive gymnastics meet. So there's about 4 meets that they use, that they've been using for about a year now. And they sum all those things up. But the pre-Olympic trials is the biggie. That's where the team is selected. Now they used to select 6, they're only doing 5 this year. And the person that comes in first during that meet is automatically on the gymnastics team. The other 4 are decided by people. Okay, not by scores, but by people. And they have a whole criteria. Okay, if this person gets on, she had a really hot score here, but the other ones, they're looking at consistency, attitude, which one would add to the team and which one would add to individual medals. There's all sorts of criteria that they use, but it's actually a panel like this that would decide the next 4 to be on the team. Okay, so that's how that is done in quick order. No questions? Okay. Comes to scoring. The dreaded scoring. You know, just believe what you see, okay? They see things that you do not understand or see. Now, when we were in gymnastics, everybody, you could get a 10. That's it. I don't care if it's 10 is it. And Komenich was one that was the first one ever to get a 10-0.
Yeah.
That's the best you can get, okay? Then they start changing things around. And I think it was for the better. There was 2 classifications for scoring. That's D and E. D for difficulty. That's separate then from E, execution. So actually, the way you execute your routine is you start with 10. 10-0. Everybody steps on that floor, you got a 10-0. You better get off the floor quick. But you make a wrong move, 10th off, 5 tenths off. You know, by the time when I was competing, I ended up with 2 or 3. Believe me, that wasn't that good. So execution, you start with 10-0. D, you start with a 0. The difficulty, you start with a 0, which means prove yourself. You have a 0 right now, let's see what you can come up with. And if you're really, really good, you might actually add another 6 points to your total score, maybe 7. Just depends on how good you are. Most kids, even if you're really good, you might pop up maybe 3 stuff. But like Simone Biles, she's just way up there, 6.
Do the judges know what your routine is going to be before you start that routine? Like
They
on
probably,
the
these
bar,
judges
they-
have seen them.
These are the
long enough.
moves you're gonna do? Do
No.
they know that beforehand?
That's compulsory. So before they even do their things on TV, as you say, the big tricks, it's compulsory routine. And every routine has to be done exactly.
Okay.
They had certain moves in order.
But like on the vault, Simone Biles does a certain
Right.
super difficult
Yeah.
flip in the air. They even named it after her. Do the judges know she's
Yeah.
going to do that when she steps on the
They do.
floor?
Yeah, yeah.
So they're
Good question.
aware of what the
Yeah, very good
what she
question.
needs to do in order to execute it well.
Yeah, so and what they look for.
Yeah.
So they're prepared for that.
So it's
That's-
parallel with the diving, because as the diving scores are that way, the degree of difficulty and
Right,
execution.
Yeah, and I do have to admit, I was a diving coach and swimming coach, but I also judged because no one knew how to judge, right? They get the coaches out there. I'm good at that. I don't know how to get out there, do it. And this is one kid, I'll never forget. He was a great diver compared to everybody else. And the last meet of the last dive, there I am again. I gave him a 10-0 and walk off. I said, this guy, compared to everybody else, deserves a 10-0. I gave him a 10-0. It was just so much fun. to do that. No one else dared to do it.
A question again on difficulty. Since the judges know ahead of time what moves the gymnasts are going to go through, some of the moves have to be kind of fairly standard, you know. So is there like a book or a list that says, hey, this is a 3, this is a 3 difficult, this is a 5?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What that's all about is if you're on that higher level, you're not going to see someone do a forward roll.
Yeah.
Okay? So even though there's 840 different skills that you have to be aware of and know how to do the shorthand,
Right.
more than likely, you're going to have to know 10.
Okay.
Okay, so you're looking for that.
Yeah.
And these judges have judged these kids quite a few times.
Yeah.
So they already know. Plus, if I was a judge, I'd be watching videos about this kid, what it looks like. So I'm already ready for the shorthand. They have to do their homework. So, yeah.
And a related question on judging. The folks that are the judges for Olympic meets, Olympic gymnastic meets, are these generally, how are they selected? I mean, is it certain countries have to have one, and do they have to have been gymnastic champions themselves, or how does that
No.
work?
Actually, a lot of them are not coaches at all.
Okay.
Nothing at all. They just love the sport and they love the technical part of it, the judging and
Right.
picking apart. That's right up Doreen's alley. She loves that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't. You know?
Yeah.
So it depends on that. But again, it's a group of people
Yes.
that are on the Olympic board that go through that process.
Okay.
But more than likely, the more powerful teams will, if it's Russia, they'll have a Russian, Chinese,
Yes.
and do that. They're not going to have a judge from Brazil, okay?
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm with you.
Very good question. Thank
Mark,
you
do
so
you
much.
want to go to the slides about scoring, or do you want
Let me see. Not yet.
to? Okay.
I think. Let's see. Let's go to this. When we were coaches, now Doreen is pretty clever. She had the first gal that did a triple full spin on a balance beam. The first person in the state to do a back semi on the balance beam. I had the first person in the state do a back semi off the vault, off the vault. You know, that was big back then. Now it's nothing. So what happened? in between when Doreen and I were competing or coaching compared to what's happening today. Like, is it the food they're eating? What's going on? Well, you're going to see it has to do with the equipment. The mechanics of gymnastics has changed. So let's, this is called a vaulting horse. Now they had holes on the top, and it would also become a pommel horse.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah, so you can, one of those things. Okay? Now, the vaulting, you're coming like this, and vault, straddle, handspring, half on, half off, floats off, and stuff like that. And they didn't do that bad, but they did it this way. Now, as kids were going faster, they ended up saying, okay, they need more length this way, because their hands would miss, because it's only about this wide. So they come on, this line move, so they turned the horse. Now they would, well, let's go back, thank you very much. So they'd come from this direction. Well, that gave them plenty of room this way, but then they were doing like the half-ons, turning in the air, and they would miss their hands this way. So then they switched to this. It's longer this way and much wider. So they can actually even block here. So you can hit that and it pops them even quicker compared to hitting that pop on top. So that's one thing that really changed in vaulting is that equipment.
Did they do that for safety or just for performance?
A lot of it for performance. But then there's also safety involved with it too. But for what they're doing now, they need to change something. And the only thing they could do is change the horse. Because kids were getting hurt, trying to do more difficult skills, but the apparatus just wasn't ready for them.
Yeah.
Good question. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the uneven bars. These are the bars that we pretty much competed with. Okay, they're unevens. They're fixed. This is it. And Dory and I were kind of laughing this morning about when we first started off. You did a little swing, they'd stand on the low bar and do a scale and stuff. That's the way it was back then. And now, let's go to the next one. Okay, now, let's go to another one. We'll probably have to go back and forth here. Now, here's one thing that's changed on the bars. The old bars were oval. Excuse my drawing. Now they're round, which really makes a big difference on how you hang onto that bar and how you can swing.
Yeah.
Okay? Then once that happened, they changed the grips. Let's go back. This is called dowel grips. And this acts like a claw. The bar would be right in here, so when they release and catch the bar, this would be right here. And it holds you right there. And that changed the game a lot. Otherwise, without that, you slip right off. You'd be gone.
Yeah.
So that was the big one. Okay, let's go back to the next one. And one more. Now, look how far apart they are. The unevens has actually turned into the high bar that the boys have. It's rounder, so they can hang on. And since that happened, they're doing everything the boys are doing on the high bar. Everything. It's amazing. Only thing is, it's scarier. Because not only do you have to swing around, guys have it kind of simple, you know? They just swing around and do all this stuff. These girls swing around, but you gotta watch out for this bar. Yeah. And they come up here and they come down like this, and at the very last second, they have to do this slight pipe to get underneath that bar, the low bar. Yeah. And still have the power to go back up and do all these other things that they're doing. It's just amazing what they're doing. So equipment has definitely changed. The diameter of the bar, the grips, the distance to the bar. No. So let's see what else we have here. while we're on equipment, I'll just keep doing this. Another thing that happened on floor, when you're doing all these crazy things on floor. Well, when we're doing it, the big thing we had before this came in was probably a back summy, maybe a full turn, because you landed on wrestling mats. That's what it was, you know? And so there's not a lot of punch there. You had to rely just on your body strength to be able to get up in here and be able to do this. I'm sorry, can you see?
Yep.
Okay. This is called, then they came up with some, I don't know how they passed it. It's called a spring floor. And there's 48 springs in a 4x8 sheet. Believe me, I put a lot of those babies together. And they screw in from the bottom, and they're about yay high. And every once in a while, you'll get a dead spot because they wear out where they always land. You have to take it apart and put new ones in. But this is called spring floor. So you have the padding here, plywood here, and then the springs. Next. This is what it looks like. This is a spring, and then this apparatus comes up here and screws into the wood. That's the whole sheet, what that looks like. Now, with that, some people, I don't know if they do this in the Olympics, but instead of the springs, they use foam pads. They're about 2 inches by 2 inches, and they stick to the bottom. And that was called a foam floor. Instead of springs, they did foam. We never went with the foam, but because they're cheaper, some people did with that. But I haven't seen them in a while. So that changed the whole game. So now when people are doing a double back with a double twist, land, punch, that's the springs.
They can show you readings. I can't sit there, so I do. What's with you?
I can't do it from here. Susan's got
I'll text her.
text her. Okay.
Oh, what's that?
Yep.
Carry on.
Okay.
Next.
So that's the next thing that changed. Changed the ball game. This, well, let's go back. This is the old, what we call a board, springboard. And this is what you would use to mount equipment or for vaulting.
Yeah.
And as you can see, to get the spring, we just had a wood thing here. We thought that was great. But then someone came up with another idea. How about some springs to get some power? So let's go to the next one, please. And so now we have things like this with springs. Again, what does that do? Boom! You hit that thing and just fly. So what happens? Bigger tricks, scarier tricks, more difficult tricks. Let's see what else we have here. The good old balance beam. Good old balance beam. Now this is a new balance beam. They're lighter weight, and they're designed in this way so that when they're jumping, it has a little give to it, a little bounce. You as an observer, you wouldn't notice that, but when you're on that beam, you can tell there's a difference. Also, it's wrapped with leather, and then on top, I think I had a drawing. Let's see if we can get to the drawings. Keep going. There it is. Like my drawing so far? The wood beam was like laminated. The thing weighed 500 pounds. It was heavy. But it's 16 feet long, 4 wide, 5 deep. And it was all wood. I mean, it was wood. It was like a rock. Compared to what it is now, it's solid here. You have foam rubber up here. It's about this thick up on top, and then it's wrapped in leather. So again, the things that they're doing on beam, I never even dreamed about. what they were doing on the floor, they put it on beam.
Yeah.
These kids are just unbelievable, just amazing.
Well,
So
what's
that's
that
what
beam-
they're.
What's the new beam made of?
I believe it could be, and I don't know for sure, but I thought it was still wood.
Okay.
Yeah, but don't quote me on that. You know,
Has it widened at all?
4.
Okay.
It's only 4 inches wide?
It's only 4 inches wide.
Holy
Now the
moly.
side's kind of a little rounded now
Okay.
instead of straight,
Yes.
because now when they grab the beam, they have that curve that they can hang onto the beam to do stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, where before they didn't have that.
Of all the exercises I see gymnasts do, the one that scares the living daylights out of me is when they do a flip on the balance beam and they land, you know. I mean, that to me,
No, it's not that bad because they have their eyes closed. They don't.
Well, they're doing it backwards.
yes.
Oh, it's just amazing. Are you kidding me?
Unbelievable that they're gonna land on 4 inches
Yeah, yeah.
backwards.
That's
And they
amazing.
land
Yeah.
right on the 4 inches. I mean,
But they start off, and we had, back then, we made our own stuff, you know. But we would have a beam that's a little wider
okay.
and only about this far off the ground.
Yeah.
And we would get some padding and wrap it with some old carpet, and that's where you would learn it. But you would first of all learn it on the floor.
Yes. Yeah.
Just some lines, and if you can be 9 out of 10 on the floor, then you slowly progress up.
Right.
So it's a big process, long process.
Yeah.
But the only time I can sense doing that is if I have a nightmare. I can't imagine doing that. Holy cow! Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, let's see where else. Where are we here now? Yeah, okay. Now let's go back to that beam. This is what we used to compete. As you can see, these are just straight up and down. There was no give. They were heavy. And as you can see, there's no arc on the side. It's just straight. Come down. That's what we competed on in most cases. Okay, so you saw the new ones, and they're constructed differently, but they have some spring. The other ones did not have any spring. Okay, now for safety, learning new tricks. This piece of foam here would cost about $5,000. We had maybe 2 or 3 of them in our gym. But it was necessary when our kids were getting to a point where doing these very difficult skills. But instead of on the surface, we dug holes in the ground and had a cement pit, and we would put these in the pit, type of thing. And then we would pad the outside of the cement, type of thing, for safety. So if they're up on bars and they're doing assembly off bars, you could land on your shoulder, on your back, whatever. It's nice and soft. They also went to this, the old foam blocks. And you would see a lot of the beginning classes, man, it's like a swimming pool. And it's great to jump into. Try to get out of those things. You can't get any place, you know. But instead of the big pillow, some gyms have that. So they'll dig out a great big hole, cement it in, and just fill it with these blocks. Which one is better? I don't know. We never went to the foam blocks. I thought it was pretty messy, and the kids, of course, would pick them apart and stuff like that. You know? So we didn't never miss with these. We just had the big pillows, type of thing. Okay, these are the grips again. Gives you an idea where you would stick your fingers in here. These 2 fingers right there, and that would cover your hand, and then the dowel would be right here. When I competed, we didn't have the dowels. It was just a pad that, same holes, but just a pad coming down here and strap, and that was it. What it would do is take the heat away from your hand, the friction. It didn't really help a whole lot, because every day I would walk out of the gym, my hands would be dripping with blood.
Oh.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did. And then you gotta let those heal. That was interesting, you know? So you learn different things, you put stuff on them and stuff like that, but they're still, it's like chapped lips.
Yeah.
You got chapped lips and everything else, and everything's fine until you smile. And then it cracks and it bleeds, you know, type of thing. So we came up with little sticks, popsicle sticks, and tape it so your hand never closed. Unless you were writing, then you could do it. But basically, they would heal like this. You go to bed with them like this. Okay? Scratch your head, you didn't know the point.
Poke yourself in the eye.
I know, that's a good one.
It's all this what I'll call personal protective equipment.
Yeah,
Is it regulated by some international body? So that yes, you can wear this kind of device on your hands, but hey, you can't wear this because it's not approved.
I'm sure when the dolls came out,
Yes,
that was probably brought up.
okay,
I'm sure of that. There's some regulations on something like that.
figured,
The same thing with all the new equipment. It had to be
yes,
going through. I always think this is going to happen with pickleball.
yeah,
Because the biggest complaint with pickleball is the noise.
right,
Well, with engineering now, they could come up with something that's pickleball without making a noise.
yes,
The type of mallet that they use, it could absorb it. Now it's going to change the game, right? But if everybody is in that game change, then everybody's on an equal basis,
yes,
okay? But even the ball that they use, so that could change. But right now, it's a big industry.
gotcha,
And everybody's going to drop a $10 million building, throw it away to get something different, you know? But it could be. Let me see, what else we have here? Oh, deductions. Oh, I must be done. I don't have anything on that page.
We've got all the shorthand ones coming up.
Okay, well, let's talk about the deductions. So, let me give you an example. Let's say you got a gymnast, and they're on the balance beam. And man, they look good. They have a back handspring, they have a back walkover, maybe and it was perfect. It was great. Maybe did a little thing off. So she ends up with a 9.9. It's pretty good. But remember, you can get more points for difficulty. Now you have someone like Simone comes out there. Well, she starts with a 10 for execution. There's hardly anything ever wrong. And then she starts throwing these big tricks, and oh, that trick is worth 5.5. This trick is worth a 0.8, 0.2. So by the time she's done, from the 10, she adds the 6 to the 10, she ends up with 16. That's where you see the discrepancy in the scoring. When we competed, we didn't have that. It was 10, that's it. Now, it depends on how difficult it is. Now some kids, you can throw something really difficult, but if you keep falling, it doesn't do you any good. So some kids will dummy down their routine to make sure it's really good. And not throw the big trick and not be able to make it. So in other words, you gotta have some sort of, you gotta make it 10 out of 10, or you don't put it in. It's gotta become such a habit that there's no question about it. But some of the deductions that judges, and hopefully even you can see that, when they do a trick, whether it's a cartwheel, whatever it is, even a handstand, arms and knees should be straight, toes pointed, together. When they do a leap, is it this far off the ground? Is it this far off the ground? Okay. Gymnasts take a, when they do a back stomach and they land it and take a step back. It's 10. Okay? 2 tenths, which is pretty common. And when you're vaulting, you got all this unbelievable speed coming down here, and you got to stick it. No, a lot of them will stick it or they'll stick it, bounce back, 210s.
Yeah.
So those little things that, even though it looks really good, they lost some points on something like that. You step out on the floor, that can, because they need to get a good run for some of these floors, and they get really close to that corner. They step out. You can step way out. You do a big wowie trick, and you fall. 5/10. Okay. Okay. Okay, the next thing. This is the shorthand for a judge. Okay, and all these are symbols. This is for a pike, a straddle jump, tuck jump, wolf jump, layout with a step out. Gee. Oh my
And
goodness,
there's
I can't believe they do
840
that.
of those?
Pardon me?
And you said there's 840 of those?
840 combined with all the events.
Yes.
But like we mentioned before, I think you had the question about, okay, if you're judging elite, you don't have to worry about a pike jump. You know, they might have maybe part of the dance, but a lot of those, no, it's going to be the biggies that they're going to be judging.
So that's what they're writing down
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
the
so when you look at their
routine
papers, this is
going
what you
on.
would see.
That's what they're writing down.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
And we'll keep going. Okay. This is, I don't know. Next, this is the whole sheet that they have. So it gives you an idea of what the judges are going through when they're judging.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about, is that my judge?
Got it.
Well,
It was.
it's yours. Let's see, we're always gonna go.
So is that all on is that a sheet of paper or is that on an electronic device?
No, it's just on a sheet of paper, from what I know. But that would be blank, those are just the skills that they would have to know. They would have to put it down, because they've got to be doing this,
Yeah.
okay? They don't have time to look down, they just miss two skills.
Good point.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
tough, it's not easy, it's not easy. Let me see what else we have.
That's the end.
That is it. Let me see if I missed anything here.
Mark, what about the age of the Olympic athletes? Like Simone is 27.
Yeah,
So the fact that she goes to the Olympics this year means that a 20-year-old doesn't go this year.
right.
It may not be around. Is there any thoughts, like, after 2 Olympics, she had enough?
No. If you want to compete, and if you're
I-
better than everybody else, you compete. Yeah, pretty rare. It's a rare
Well,
individual.
in gymnastics, but swimming, I know kids are going like 4 times.
Oh, yeah.
Since they've been 15 years old. So
Sure.
it just doesn't seem fair to the next 16-year-old.
What wouldn't be fair is that you were better, but because your age, you can't do it because of something.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be fair. But as long as you're better than everybody else, compete.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
Do the judges collaborate? at
Yes,
all?
they do. If the points are really far apart, like let's say one judge comes up with a 12.5, and another judge comes up with a 16. Time to come, and then they have just a panel that will also look at it. Okay, maybe two other judges that are independent that have come and look at it with them to try to figure out what really happened here. You saw this, she didn't, type of thing, or whatever. So yeah, there's collaboration. Awesome. Usually you don't get very far, unless it's a big discrepancy. Then something definitely went wrong. Okay, and then they would fix it.
Do they, do the judges ever go back and look at video before they issue their final scores?
That I don't know. I got a feeling they wouldn't because of time constraint.
Well, maybe if there's this big discrepancy,
Yeah,
you know, it's just like when a football game, when there's a challenge at the call, and somebody, the ref didn't see it.
oh, I know, I read the video, it's just amazing. I don't know if that's what they do anymore, I don't know. Or is it just something they meet together and say, okay, look, you had 5 tenths over here and this person had 1 tenth. Okay, what's going on here, what happened here? And they can talk about it.
Do you think that judging will ever become automated? That a camera device can track the athlete and pick up the slight bend in the joint or pick up rate the difficulty?
If you can think it, it'll be done. Yeah, just amazing what's out there. And if you came up with that idea, more than likely, it'll be done. Someone will come up with something.
That's why Cindy Trevor's not here today, because he's home working on this.
With artificial intelligence.
AI takes us there sometime.
So hopefully you'll go home with a better idea of what's going on.
You bet.
So when you look at someone that finished that looked awesome and someone else that didn't look that good, she got a bobble and this girl got higher than this girl that was perfect. You got another act, the difficulty that is added to it. So hopefully you'll understand how that goes. And also, it's down pretty good. I mean, all the things you have to remember and deduct, yeah, just kind of go, oh, too bad. Anything else?
That was great.
Thank you for being good
Listen,
listeners.
I'm using the old system, but I would rate